responsibility to make sure the roads, the bridges, the water, the sewer, everything is there when businesses and industry come looking. We've got to make sure that we've got a leader at the ports. You know, the post-Panamax ships are coming in 2014, and we are 18 months away from making decisions on infrastructure and how we're going to handle these big ships. If we're not ready, they're going to go somewhere else. And we need a governor that's going to roll up his sleeves, that's going to talk to Norfolk Southern, that's going to talk to CSX, that's going to solve some of these infrastructure problems in the naval base and that expansion. Because 1 out of every 10 jobs is directly related to the Port of Charleston. It's a $40 billion multiplier. And so far, we've had a governor that has not been willing to get his hands dirty and to sit down with people to solve these problems. That's one thing. The other thing is the energy industry. I'm a huge believer in energy and the way we can turn this nation around. Not only this nation, but this state around with energy. 3 weeks ago, we put our Palmetto Energy Project out, which is a two-pronged attack. Number one, it would tap into the 4 billion cubic feet of natural gas off the coast of South Carolina. That could be 2,200 jobs. And if you equate the royalties that the Gulf Coast states get to South Carolina, at a minimum, we could get $250 million a year. We could use that money as we see fit. What I would propose is that we use 70% for infrastructure, 20% for law enforcement, and then we would use another 10% to plow back into alternatives and renewables. I think it is a tremendous bonus for South Carolina, this jobs and economic growth. But the other side of that equation is nuclear. I'm a huge nuclear proponent. The Savannah River site has been in my district for the last 7 years. We've got 4 nuclear reactors on the board in South Carolina right now. 2 at the V.C. Summer site in Fairfield County, 2 at the Lee site in Cherokee County. That could be a $25 billion investment. At Florence Darlington Tech, where I was about a month and a half ago, we went to see the program that's training our next generation nuclear reactor welders, our next generation nuclear reactor pipe fitters. Those men and women start at $75,000 a year. And you talk about turning the economy around in Fairfield County, in Cherokee County, across this state, lowering the cost of business, which encourages more businesses and industry to come into South Carolina. But it's more than that. It's recycling nuclear waste here at the Savannah River site, which is good for our nation. And I will say this, we've got to get Yucca Mountain back open. The president's been playing politics with Yucca Mountain. It's wrong for this nation. It's wrong for freedom. That's where the nuclear spent waste needs to be. And as a governor, and certainly as a congressman, I will not allow South Carolina to become the de facto nuclear dumping grounds of this nation.
Well, I agree 1,000% about Yucca Mountain. And I think, eventually, won't nuclear cells run what electricity does now, power vehicles?
Absolutely. I think sooner or later, Pastor, I think it's got to. I mean, you know, everybody, I guess all these environmentalists, they want wind and solar and water, and that's all well and good. And maybe someday we'll be there. Maybe the technology will be there, but it's not today. If we're going to solve today's energy problems, we need to use every tool in the toolbox. We need to use natural gas. We need to use clean coal technology. I mean, we're the Saudi Arabia of coal. We need to use every resources we've got, whether it's oil in the Gulf or oil in Anwar up in Alaska, and nuclear. I mean, you show me another viable option for baseload capacity that's better than nuclear, and I'll eat it because it's not out there. I mean, the only viable option we have right now is nuclear. And someday we'll have other technologies, but until then, we've got to solve our own energy problems, and we can be energy independent here in South Carolina.
Let me ask you a direct question, and most South Carolinians are wondering, and of course, you know, one of our biggest challenges is the debt, South Carolina debt and national debt, and the evaluation of our currency. You know, why did you find it so important to take some of the bailout funds that were promoted for South Carolina?
Well, let me say this. I voted against the stimulus. I voted against the president's budget. I voted against Obamacare. I mean, no other congressman in the United States Congress has voted more against Obama and his spending spree except me, with the exception of one, and that's Jeff Flake from Arizona. Everybody always asks, and I think I'm closing in on him.
Say that exception once more.
Jeff Flake. I mean, nobody has I've got a 100% pro-life. I've got an A rating with the NRA. I'm the only congressman, excuse me, I'm the only congressman in the last 7 years from South Carolina to win the the National Taxpayers Union Award. The only one. I've got a Defender of Freedom from Government Citizens Against Government Waste. But when it comes to the TARP vote, I listen to President Bush. I listen to the Vice President. I talk to leaders all over this nation. Gentlemen, I honestly believe with all my heart that we were at a point in our time where men and women were going to take out their ATM card, stick it in a slot, and nothing was going to come out. Now, having said that, has TARP been implemented like the program said it was supposed to and Congress directed? Absolutely not. And I have done and continue to do everything I can to make sure that the taxpayers are paid back 100%, and that never happens again. But that doesn't happen at the federal level. It happens here at the state level. And we've got to change those dynamics.
Question, where are you from originally?
Westminster, South Carolina, Tom. Born and raised.
You're around Pickens.
Yes, sir. Pretty close.
Did you take Butler's place?
I did. Well, it was Brian Dorn and then Butler, and then Lindsay took Butler's place. And then I took Lindsay's place. Yes, sir.
Okay.
3rd Congressional District. 10 counties, Anderson, Oconee, and Pickens, and then comes all the way down to Aiken. I've got about 2/3 of Aiken.
What's he doing now?
Butler, last time I looked, he was a consultant up in Washington.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
So he went back up there.
Yes, sir.
2 of the most important votes in the last 10, 12 years has been NAFTA and then this Obama health care garbage, and both of them passed by 1 vote.
Mm-hmm.
See, the vice president from Tennessee, Gore,
Mm-hmm.
he voted, he got NAFTA in, and of course it cost us thousands of jobs here in the state, primarily textile related.
Yes, sir.
I asked Beasley one time, Beasley went around, he had to get BMW, had to get all this stuff, and concessions. I said, how many jobs? He thought, well, 3,714. We lost 86,412 textile related jobs.
Yes, sir.
Sewing factories and everything else.
Yes, sir.
Can you expound about the impact of this health care? Isn't the state basically supposed to carry out what Obama wants done?
Yes, sir.
And aren't we the ones that'll be holding the bag financially if it's not taken care of?
You hit the nail on the head, Tom.
Explain that to Robert, and because I told him that.
Yes.
It is, I'll tell you exactly, I can put it in Westminster, South Carolina terms, Pastor. If I'm blessed enough to be governor, when I walk off the stage with my brother and we head up the stairs, the federal government's going to hit South Carolina with a $1 billion bill. $100 million per year for 10 years to pay for this government takeover of health care. It is unconstitutional, and I applaud Henry McMaster for filing a lawsuit, but that's a long-term solution. We've got to do, number 1, repeal it, and I'm a co-sponsor on legislation. We got any water? I'm starting to see if you can pour me a little water. Look in that little cooler. I think there's probably some ice.
Yes.
So, Diet Coke, would you rather have?
No, just a little water.
Been here before.
Yeah, I just figured I'd take advantage
That's
of
where all the goodies are.
I am a co-sponsor of legislation that would repeal the health care, but at a minimum, I'm a co-sponsor on legislation that would repeal the health care, Obamacare, but at a minimum, we need to defund it. And that's one way we can fight it. But do we need health care reform? Absolutely. But this is a government takeover of health care. It is a $600 billion tax increase.
He's going to break the states.
He already has.
Do you
He
believe,
would break South Carolina.
Absolutely.
do you believe that the state lawsuits will be successful?
I honestly do, Pat.
If they're going to be successful, I would rather them be the breaking rather than legislation.
Well, and I understand that, but my fear is it'll drag out so long, So in the meantime, I think we can, number 1, defund it at a minimum, defund its implementation until we can find out, whether we can be successful in the lawsuit.
Right.
Yes, sir. Oh, thank you.